All right, guys. Today I'm joined by Gal Bournstein, founder and CEO of the Bournstein Group, a Washington, D.C. based B2B, B2G branding agency trusted by names like IBM, Airbus, and the U.S. Army. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming on. Jumping straight into things here. For other agency founders that are listening, that are trying to hit that 1 to 2 million mark. When you were scaling your agency, what was the one growth lever that made the biggest difference?
I think the biggest one was really the ability to define the targets that you're going after, which we now call niching, if you will. In any kind of environment, you have multiple agencies with multiple talents, and most of them think about the horizontal talents. I found that because I had a background in technology, I found that most small to mid-sized companies at the time that I started the agency didn't really have agencies that wanted to understand what they're doing in telecommunications, in information technology at the time, way before the software service companies came. But the principle was the same. So I said, we're going to be the biggest elephant in a very narrow path, if you will, where other people can't come in because they don't have that vertical market knowledge. And by doing so, it created a lot more opportunity because I was able to sit with a CEO of a high-tech company and explain to him what his technology is, and then understand that we can do the branding and the marketing and the PR.
That makes sense. So niching down. Gal, I'm curious, before the agency, you mentioned that you had a tech background. What were you doing and how did you decide to make that jump into the agency space?
This was really a story of necessity, being the mother of inventions. I graduated from Temple University in Philadelphia with a radio, television, and film major. And then I decided that MBA would be the way to go. Not a lot of people knew what a techno MBA was. And it was really to understand how business works, also about technology. And I did that at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. And what I found throughout this program that they were talking about all the technologies that are coming down the road. And we're able to create our own scenarios of how to use the technology. So just for the entertainment of your audience, last chapter of the book about data communications that I was reading, I wasn't an engineer, so I didn't understand most of it, but I got the gist of what it's supposed to do from a business application. The last chapter was broadband over power line, which today is what we really use when you plug the router in your house. That's really how the wiring increases the Wi-Fi signal. And we're talking about 29 years ago. So just think about how many more inventions like cybersecurity and advanced analytics and cyber and anything that has to do with technology has evolved. The market, when I graduated, sucked. There were no jobs. And because I didn't have experience working for an agency and I wanted to be in the business of an agency, I started the company, the Bournstein Group. I called it the Bournstein Group because I didn't want people to ask how many people work in the Bournstein Group. That worked. And the second was really to say that we're specialized in business to business and business to government, which is predominantly technology. And the third was really being able to offer them what most of the companies in that small to mid-size space are missing, which is intimacy with the CEO, intimacy with the chief growth officer, the people that really need strategy, not only creative. Because when you do creative without strategy, you pretty much have an experiment versus science. That's why our tagline for the Bournstein Group, since we started, is making creativity a science. And it has to do with the fact that we're all creative. It's not a knock on creativity, but if you can't take your idea and create a replicable, can I answer that question again, please?
Yeah, of course.
So we basically, our tagline has been making creativity a science. And it all has to do with the fact that creativity is not a science. Anyone can have one idea once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime. But if you can take that idea and scale it to produce repeatable and predictable outcome, you can't scale. And if you can't scale, your idea is basically something that is a piece of art that might belong in a museum of creativity, but does not serve the clients. Repeat to your question, or to answer your question, having any agency experience, I started an agency, and I took everything that I read about the stereotypes of what agencies do to their client, which has to do with, if you're not spending $1 million, we send the president to the first meeting, and then we put an account assistant or a junior person with 1 to 2 years of experience to work on your account or to even meet with you because you're not meeting the threshold of revenue, which is a big mistake in technology. Because most technology companies that we work with today have 10 to 50 to 100 employees. They make more money than a lot of the established technology companies that are in this space. The margin goes high because they have mystery. They have something new. So really, because there was no job available for an advertising guy and a PR guy, that really, this is my core skill, being a writer. It was a leap of faith with taking $2,000 loan on a Visa credit card, where they give you convenience checks and they don't tell you that when you cash the check, it's 30% interest and $500. So you're already missing $500 out of your $2,000 that you got. So that really very quick became a necessity. I was young, I had nothing to lose, and I said, I'm going to go for it. And the rest is history. 29 years later, we're one of the top 50 B2B agencies in the country. We also have international clients, but really the focus always remains.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Going all in, and not many people's first businesses are they able to crush it out the gate. To you, though, I'm curious when it comes to client acquisition, what has been the one channel or the system that's been solid for you throughout the 29, almost 30 years?
You might be surprised, and a lot of people are surprised to hear when they say, what's the secret of being able to do it reliably over time? Technologies come and go, and accelerators of different kinds are off, but the most basic human need human need that customers have is responsiveness. And I can't tell you how many times over each year in business, once we won the business and the customer was willing to kind of share why did they choose our agency, was the CEO answered the phone within 2 hours after we sent them an email or voicemail. And the other guys called 3 days later, 5 days later, creating an atmosphere that we can't really trust them. And the second most important thing that we always used early on was Google to create what is called organic content, and also use pay-per-click in very niche environments, which consistently produced leads and the ability to match what we said in our pay-per-click, that you're going to get that treatment that you're supposed to get as a customer. And then, hey, when they called or emailed, there was an hour or two until they got an email and a call from me. I had to leave a voicemail. The point is, I established my presence. The company established its brand. And that really has consistently, throughout 29 years in business as an agency, been the most effective tool of being able to generate leads that are really being generated from the outside, cultivating them into a trust between a prospect and buyer, if you will. It works.
There we go, guys. You heard it from Gal. Responsiveness and following up with the leads, being the one.
And I'd like to add to that, it really is the word trust and respect. I think we can, as agencies, treat customers that, for example, are not spending a certain amount of money as inferior colleagues, because they're not. They may grow with you as opposed to you growing on top of them. And the relationships, the average relationships, as you probably know, between an agencies is about 2.5 years. That's the average. It's been the average between that and 2 over the past 2 or 3 decades that and I don't think it's changed much. And I can tell you from a humble point of view, because it's hard work and it's not easy to earn it that way. But most of our clients have been with us for 10, 15, and more years. And we rebranded them 3 or 4 or 5 times over that time period. And it's not because we are in being creative or better in strategy. It's because we developed the customer intimacy, the trust and respect that we are partners to our clients, and that they can come up to us with the complaints and the compliments and be a true partner and not a vendor. Most of the industry has been developed, especially now, with a lot of the content marketing companies and AI generated emails that pretend like they know you AI has not perfected itself yet to the point where it feels and it has an emotive way to connect with you. I think that's kind of where the next generation of balance has to be created that will replace the old systems of voicemail, and possibly email may disappear or be expanded in a different way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, Gal, are you still making the calls to the leads or do you have a team that's doing that for you now?
I have a team of people. We're a company with 20 employees distributed throughout the US, especially after COVID, accelerated that process where people didn't want to stay in one place. But to me, the person that opens the door, given that the company name is the Bournstein Group, to me, it's an obligation, something that I enjoy actually doing. And what it does, it also screens which clients going to be compatible with the way we work. So one of the things that we're notorious for, and I'm saying that with pride, is we have a very deprecating sense of humor. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we're not legends in our own mind. So we start a conversation with a new client from the beginning in the qualification stage where they're qualifying us, we're qualifying them, to throw in a joke or some humorous anecdote. And if I don't get a response back that is human, which is it sucked or it's great, something, I typically know that they're not going to be a good client for our agency, because we're going to go on the road, take risks and rewards. And the system cannot exist without that relationship that you have to create and maintain with your audience.
That makes sense. Gal, I'm curious because you've been in the game for over 30 years or almost 30 years with the Borenstein Group. What are some of the challenges that you faced at the highest level that you weren't expecting that other agency owners that are coming up behind you could start to prepare for?
I think the biggest challenge is, what do we do with AI? I think that is the most talked about and challenging thing that we're dealing with. Not alone, all kind of knowledge workers are dealing with that problem. That I'm more question, will there be a copyright in 6 months or a year or two, or do we need a copywriter, for example? But overall, there are two things that are very specific to agencies that I'd like to mention. Number one is there are a lot of new AI-enabled systems that are being injected into customer relationship management systems, Salesforce, to any kind of lead generation type of activity. And they have not been perfected yet. It's still a human experiment on what works and what doesn't. One challenge is to make sure that you don't fall into that category of saying that it's successful because you achieved a certain percentage or a certain percent of engagement, because until you close the deal, there is no deal. And there could be a lot of qualitative things that can make the difference. But most companies that succeed are using now AI, replicate their business development, this approach, and how to get to market. So instead of making 100 phone calls, it's nice that with AI, the bot can make those 100 phone calls in 2 minutes. And you might get 98 no's, but the two that you get that are yeses can create a relationship. So I see that a lot of agencies are opting into that area, and that is something that is still in experimental mode, but certainly is the future in terms of how you can use the intelligence and kind of perfect it to adjust the company culture, the company values, along with approaching people in a way that does not sound like a robot, because robot is also the enemy of intimacy, customer intimacy, and that is really what's going to kill you or make you stronger, if you will. The second most important strategy that are succeeding that I'm seeing is changing the organizational structure and engaging all of the employees and team in a client account and making sure that there really is a relationship between the agency and the client. And that means that the creative director needs to be involved and sit in a room when we're talking about strategy. If an agency does stakeholder interviews with customers, that they're involved in hearing what's important, what's not. And when you have that data and you have a creative director that didn't just receive a brief from an account manager and doesn't know anything about the customer, That really what makes the difference.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you brought that up because I think AI is such a hot topic right now. I'm curious, are you guys implementing voice AI internally inside of your agency for your prospecting sales efforts or for your client?
We are starting to. We're still basically checking what's out there because in business to business, you don't have a lot of clients, but every client is a massive amount, multi-million dollar product or service that they sell. There's maybe only 50 of them in a niche, for example, cybersecurity, or 50 software service companies or telecommunications or whatever you choose, which we're trying to determine what is the best system that kind of marries our values, as I mentioned before, and what would work in terms of volume that will produce quality, not just quantity. Just to give you an example, in AI, we're developing our own to see what if that works and trying to bring our agency IQ and marry it with OpenAI right now into something that we can use to much better bot agent in the near future, and then connect them to the process, connect them to prospecting, connect them to everything that we can do with happier type of environment right now.
Got it. Oh, you've had success in the government contracting space, correct?
Yeah.
What would you say for other agency owners? I know it's a hard place to tap into, but once you're in there, I think it can be very fruitful. What has your experience been?
The experience been that government contractors is a misnomer. It's really business to business. And instead of it calling business to business, you're really marketing to the largest customer in the world, Uncle Sam. And then the companies that sell to Uncle Sam need branding and PR and visibility and support because most of them are technology companies. Of course, there are construction companies, there are customers that might make staples, the gun, drones, whatever it is that they make. The customers that we focus on are business to business, the marketing to the government agency, the size of the government, and the interest levels that they have in every department. If you think about defense, which is the high spending area, aerospace, think about all the drones that are being developed right now and being used all over the world, missile defense, all the way to zero trust in cybersecurity. People tend to think on the outside, or outside the beltway, as we would call here in Washington, D.C., that really you need to understand government in order to be a player. And the answer is you need to understand what the customer language is in the vernacular that they use, and then marry it with your experience, and then present them things that match up with the actual buying environment is. So if you, for example, are a big believer in social causes, the government has the Department of Labor, the Department of Agriculture, the departments that deal with helping lower income bracket people, different campaign. The CDC has a campaign every other day for don't smoke, don't eat this, don't eat that. This is all advertising and marketing and branding. And the agencies that are focused on social advocacy had their own channel, if you will. We focus on the technology because that's kind of where the big money is at, always will be. It's about 60% of our national budget as a country. That just changes from cybersecurity to supply chain to protecting the zero trust entry of information and making sure that there's an on-ramp to introducing new software to the buyers. At the end of it, the most important part that agencies that are trying to break in need to know is that the government is not a one entity buyer. Every division of every agency might have 20 to 50 different clients could do business with you if you just focused, for example, on social advocacy, or you focused on cybersecurity, or you focused on anything. You can't just think about the government as one entity with one decision maker. For every program that exists in government, there is a stakeholder, there's an influencer, and there's a decision maker. And if you're able to connect with their values, with their mission statements that are posted on government websites, that's really the best advice I can give other agencies that are up and coming, that are interested in looking at it. Because I can tell you from experience that sometimes we do compete against agencies from, let's call it, out of town. And the first question that we ask is, do they know the business? Do they know even that they have to read the CIO page of Department of Labor to know what it is that the customer needs? So really connecting qualitative marketing partnerships with other agencies as well is the way of the
I
future.
think that's a really good place to start to wrap up here. I think there was some gold in that, in everything that you spoke about here today, Gul. Is there anything that you're excited to announce moving forward this year, or where can people find out more about you, your agency, anything you spoke about today?
We're always excited about the future. Can't tell you today that we have any announcement to share, but I can tell you that every day when I come to the office, I look forward to having a different day and a different challenge from a client. And the challenges are the adrenaline that's necessary to do. If you want to reach to us and learn more about the Bournstein Group, you can do that by visiting our website at bournsteingroup.com and also via LinkedIn. Find me at galbournstein.com, and we will be happy to accommodate any questions and create new relationships. As well, you can check Amazon.com and find the 3 business books that I wrote about branding and marketing in the digital age, which kind of have to do with the fact that the whole enterprise of the customer marketing organization and agencies need to change in terms of how you do business to create a relationship.
Gul, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.